Morning, everyone. We'll probably get started here in just a couple minutes, but if you could make sure that you're on mute while we're on hold and waiting for everyone to join, that would be great. I can hear someone typing.
Oh, sorry. Where did my Zoom go? My apologies. That was me, Kathy LeCompte. I'm on mute.
Okay, thanks, Kathy. No worries. I think we're all just kind of joining slowly but surely. Hey, Yvonne, it's Shelley. Just wanted to check to make sure you're there.
I'm here.
Okay, great. Because I couldn't tell from the name on your Zoom screen. And Yvonne, we might just want to wait just a couple more minutes and then can hand the baton to you to kick us off. And Freddie is also ready to, I will stop sharing my screen. we'll share our kind of meeting template and our agenda and our notes to help guide our discussion today. Freddie, can you start sharing that, please?
Is the text size okay?
That looks pretty good to me. How about for everybody else? You guys should weigh in.
Yes, it looks good.
Okay.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you, Shelley, for having me volunteer for today's workshop or working group meeting. I'm very excited to host to facilitate the workshop and to help us move along with today's meeting. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Yvonne Jackson. I'm from Ykhc, and my mom is Ykhc Jackson from the Antioch, which is on the Agula side. Yeah, my background is in workforce development. I've been in this field for the last 15 years. I started off as a student intern with the Alaska Department of Labor and Workforce Development in the high growth jobs industry. And I fell in love with this career field and have been helping people in Alaska obtain employment, maintain employment, pursue higher education and vocational training, as well as apprenticeships for the last 15 years. I'm the founder and president CEO of Alaska Rural Professional Development. And we recently launched our services full-time for providing professional development training to organizations and individuals across Alaska in just professional skills areas. And I'm excited to contribute to this meeting as well as facilitate. The agenda states that we're going to be welcoming and introducing everybody. So we'll do a roll call for the first 10 minutes of today's meeting, and then we will give a little refresher on the last meeting from December 17, 2020, and provide an update from those that have attended that meeting last year as a part of the Workforce Development Committee. And then we will work on making updates to the last goals made from 2020, and we'll allocate 60 minutes or an hour for that section, and then identify indicators for success for the next 40 minutes following that. And then moving forward to close the meeting, we'll summarize everything that we discussed today and adjourn for the next 10 minutes. So if we can go ahead and get started and do a roll call. And welcome all the participants.
I think, Yvonne, because we've got so many folks, which is super awesome, that maybe just everybody making sure that they introduce themselves in the chat. And that way we can spend less time doing that, and you guys can jump right into the good stuff.
Okay, that's a good idea. So if you haven't already done so, take a moment to open the chat box and introduce yourself, your position or organization that you're representing or participating from. Then we'll go ahead and record that information and get started with providing an update from last year's December 2021 update. Reviewing the December 2021 meeting notes from the Education and Workforce Development action plans. We had approximately, there was about 15 people attended from various organizations. And if we can get an update from the participants on the December 17 CEDS meeting for Education and Workforce Development, the first action plan was to collectively develop and implement a regional vocational training workforce development plan focused on adults. I wasn't in that meeting, but it looks like Ykhc and ABCP might have been partners to spearhead that action plan. Some steps were to.
Yeah, I don't see anyone from, is there anyone from Ykhc that is on with us right now? I don't see Fanny on this morning.
It looks like last year, some participants, maybe we've had participants from ABCP. Is there anyone from ABCP on here? There was Seth O'Brien. Florence Cargy was at the last meeting. Is she here?
So you know what, Yvonne, maybe to help spark some conversation, I might do just a little setting the stage to get folks kind of in the headspace from what happened last year and what we did in December. With your permission, I can do that right now and maybe get folks a little bit more in the weeds on where we landed last year to spark some discussion. Is that okay with you, Yvonne?
Thank you. Yes, please.
Okay. Hey, Freddie, can you please scroll down to the relevant section here? Yeah, there you go. So we recognize there are a lot of words here. So I just wanted to say that there's a lot here that is setting the stage. Could you cruise back down, Freddie? Yeah, there you go. So there's definitely a lot here that is important context and that came out of the conversation from last year. So we really had two very good discussions with education and workforce development partners. And you can see the results of the first discussion on your screen right now. Those are action plan tasks items A and B. So we did a tremendous amount of like very detailed discussion by all of the partners, and sort of, it was almost like a little bit of what we were starting to identify as an inventory of what everyone is doing. If that's a local partner, a regional partner, a state or federal partner, that's somehow playing a role in education workforce development in the Ykhc. Everyone shared their thoughts and feedback on that. And I think essentially, and anybody that participated last year can help me remember this clearly, that I believe there was a general feeling that what needed to happen was really a collective plan. So some kind of a regional vocation training force or training workforce development plan that was really focused on adults. So, and primarily because it felt like the kind of youth and younger folks development, that was covered by a lot of different categories and partners, but there was this sense that really the focus on adults, and so kind of also like older youth, I think you could say, that there was a real need for the partners to work together to develop a plan that clearly articulates gaps and needs, opportunities and challenges, including any policy barriers that really limit the success of our proposed policy changes, and then really strategies to address gaps and needs. And that included, estimated costs, funding sources for implementation, and that level of detail. So I think the question before us today, so we do see maybe some progress updates that were shared in green here. And that gives us a little bit of an idea of some work that's happened. But all of those partners, if you are part of the ABCP workforce development team, or our other partners with the state of Alaska workforce development or others that can weigh in. So I think our question to the group today is, have we made any progress towards developing this regional workforce development plan? And what comments or questions do you have about that in terms of like being able to do that? If we've not done that, what do we need to do to change gears to be able to successfully achieve this action, or is this the wrong action? So I'll press pause there and see if folks have any questions or comments related to that.
Hi, this is Brenda. Good morning.
Morning, Brenda.
So hi, after reviewing this, we are getting ready to plan for the 2022 Ykhc Delta Workforce Development meeting. So we'll send that out as we get closer to everyone. But one thing that I noticed that's missing on here that might be helpful is individuals who are returning to the workforce after being incarcerated. And that might be a gap that needs to be filled. So thank you.
Thanks, Brenda. So a re-entry, kind of a focus on folks that are re-entering after being incarcerated. Thank you.
Hey, Shelley, this is Mike with ANSET.
Hey, Mike.
Hello. So I just wanted to give an update on the ANSET portion that's on the document. So at that time in December, we were just planning for this launch of the Acceleration Academy. And now it's thanks to the partnership with LKSD and KUC, this is a reality. We have a regional director in Bethel, and we have this Acceleration Academy opportunity available to all LKSD high school students. And so now we have students taking college courses right now in the region, and they're working towards, any career that they want to pursue. So that's an update. It's no longer a plan, it's a reality now.
Awesome. So we're definitely recording that. And I think our ideal version of life is that we would also be typing this live for you, but we're doing a little bit of back and forth. So appreciate your patience with that. And Yvonne, thanks for letting me take the reins here for a moment while I sort of get our brains back into all of the pretty intense work that happened last year. It looks like Fanny, you're on the line now. Can you hear me, Fanny?
Yes.
Hey, how are you, Fanny?
Doing good. I just had to get right over.
I think your connection is maybe cutting out a little bit. I think we are on this first task and just doing a little bit of check-in on the progress that's been made since we got together back in August of 2020. So we had the 2 meetings. And if you recall, we had focused on developing a regional vocational training workforce development plan and wondering what progress you've made with other partners on developing something like that.
So we've mostly been working with YK. We don't have a plan yet, but YK, we've been working on the health CNAs. They do have a lot of needs for CNAs and LPN. So we just started our LPN program. So we're working with YK and hopefully trying to find a new instructor for a nursing program. We have not worked with other employers yet, or at least trying to form any kind of formal partnership. So we've made baby steps, but haven't got to the point where we actually have a plan. So the city of Bethel, we've been trying to work with on our CDL. They have a huge need for CDL drivers, and trying to come up with creative ways, because like, again, huge need for instructor for that. And those really are the only two areas. We have other, tribal administration was another area that we might look into. And that would most likely be something we do in partnership with ABCP. But we haven't even, like, that was just an idea that came up in the last couple of weeks. So we haven't even started working on that yet. So yeah, I'd say we've made a little bit of progress in that area, but we don't have a formalized plan.
Okay. Appreciate that update, Fanny. I think what might be helpful is we did have a December follow-up meeting. So if other folks have additional suggestions related to a regional vocational training workforce development plan, we can start to add those in. But I think where things got a little bit more focused was when we did the December conversation that followed. So if you cruise down, Freddie, to the next section that really shows us, we had a follow-up conversation December, so I'll provide some additional context here. We had a follow-up conversation in December, so we had this big broad plan idea in place, but our understanding is folks also really wanted to take some action on specific industries and zero in on opportunities related to aviation, energy, and resource development in particular, but recognizing there's more than that. And I just heard you say something, Fanny, related to healthcare. And so we did divide these out in by industries. And I think that was a really helpful focus for the conversation. So you all can see related to aviation, the stuff that's in the center column really identified some of the gaps and really showed us like, what are some of those potential gaps? Hey, Freddie, can I steal the screen from you for a moment? I'm going to grab this from you. And can you guys see my screen okay? Give me a thumbs up or yes?
Yes.
All right. And I'm just going to take this big. And because I think what we're recognizing is the education workforce development category is gigantic. And so how do we get our brains focused on gaps and solutions? And a way to do that is through the industry lens. And Yvonne, you should correct me if I'm wrong on this, because it feels like this ended up being, we know we need a big plan, but that plan needs to be focused. And we sort of started to develop it in that second December work session. So if it's okay with you folks, maybe we do that and sort of tackle by industry or sector. And that helps us to really focus our lens a little bit more, recognizing there's many gaps and many opportunities and lots of resources. So check this out, aviation. We had here kind of program providers that were listed. And then we also talked about some of the gaps here in the center column. But back then in December of last year, we talked about reopening the flight school, really encouraging potential participants to work with ANSEP or AVTEC on prerequisites and test for readiness related to aviation. And then flight school instructors teaching ground school courses in partnership with regional high schools. So I will press pause there. Is there anyone that's joining us today that can talk about progress made in the aviation industry category on some of these solutions that we talked about last December? Any updates that you guys can share on what's happening with aviation?
Hi, Shelley.
Yeah, go ahead, Eric.
Hey, I just have a little bit of information regarding to the, our flight school program. I believe, everything that we had at the flight school, and don't take my word for it, but I'm trying to figure out what we're doing here. But the planes, everything from the building was sold off, and it's now rented out to a private individual who's using it as a like airport for his business. But with everything that's going on with AVCP and the flight school, they pretty much went through and cleaned out the building. So they'll be really difficult to get that program started again from what I saw. Without the building and all the equipment that they had there, I just don't see that moving forward at a great pace. Just because there's no space available for the training. That was a great place. There was different setups for stations for people to do training and get hours in, but unfortunately that's not available anymore. And I don't think it's going to be kickstarted anytime soon.
Okay, thanks, Eric. Definitely bummer to hear that. Fanny, do you have any other updates on that related to you and what Ykhc is doing related to aviation?
So we still have the maintenance school, like our second cohort started in July, and they're going to be finishing their first section next week. We did lose our instructor for that program, so we have a substitute stepping in right now. So our hope is that we'll find a new instructor before our substitute just can't do it anymore. He already has a full plate. So this was something we were adding to his already full plate. And the flight school we really weren't involved with. I mean, if we were involved, I'm not aware, just because I know that Ykhc was involved in those conversations or asked to take over the flight school, and that didn't happen. So now we're doing the maintenance, aviation maintenance. And I'm not sure, I'd have to talk to Mike Hoffman about what role we would play in that, if any. And I don't know if that was the plan for you to have a role in the flight school. I'm not sure. So I don't have a lot of background information on the flight school side of things. But yeah, the maintenance school is still, aviation maintenance is still up and running right now.
Okay. Thanks, Fanny. And I know that between Tiffany and Mike, there had been some discussion. Tiffany was on our last December call related to this, but Eric's update is news related to that. But how about for Mike Allroan? I'm not sure if or anybody else from ANSEP or AVTEC that might be on with us that can talk about any preparation or prerequisites or testing that's happening related to aviation. And maybe it's broader than that, the work that you guys are doing, but anything else that you would weigh in on related to the aviation piece?
Shelley, this is Kathy LeCompte. I'm the director at AVTEC.
Yeah, go for it, Kathy.
Okay. I am not sure how we got on this list. We don't do any aviation. We don't do any prerequisite for aviation, and we don't have any plans in the near future to go into the aviation field. So I'm not sure how we got on this list. So I don't have anything more to report except that, and I'm sorry. We can help in other areas, but aviation is just not an area that we're focused on right now.
Okay, so Kathy, since that might be the impetus to take us to the next sector, then if folks don't have any other additions for aviation. I mean, that was definitely came up, I think, consistently, even in our August work session and then December for sure, that folks had some interest, and there's definitely the gap or the need for pilots and mechanics. So I think like continuing to think about what the potential solutions are there. So definitely the maintenance piece, it's great to hear that is still in place, Fanny, but with everyone's permission, perhaps we move ourselves to energy. And you can see here in the solutions timeline, we've got many providers that are listed there, including Avtech and Ute and also AEA and others, including the UAF Bristol Bay campus. But you can see here some of the potential solutions that were identified at the time when we met in December. And those include everything from training for power plant operations, building maintenance, bookkeeping, a lot of different items here for solutions. And if it's really challenging to try to read into the weeds and look at all this detail here, it would be good to hear from you folks. What are you doing or contributing towards a solution for training a new generation of folks that are working on energy related efforts?
Shelley, as long as I've got my mic open, I'll go ahead and jump in because this is a place where we definitely have a role at Avtech. We have a strong partnership with AEA. We actually have an instructor on site in Seward in our power plant. If folks haven't been down to see our power plant training, I would welcome them to reach out and come and take a look, because it's pretty robust training that we do for power plant operations, basic and then advanced. We also do a bulk fuels handling class, and we just recently added a person in charge on the shore side which is a Coast Guard rule regulation that was causing some fines and some dissatisfaction amongst people having to pay those fines. So we have a very tight partnership with AEA, and it's very robust. And we've also taken our courses to blended. So instead of having to take 8 weeks out of their lives to come to Avtech, the folks that are doing the power plant operation can do part of it online and then do their intensives for 2 weeks or 2 to 4 weeks. So yeah, that's up and running really strongly. So
that's great. Thanks, Kathy. So I was hoping to hear, I know that Mike just said he had to jump off. Do we have any other folks from ANSEP that are on right now?
Hi, Shelley. This is Audrey. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, Audrey.
And I'm sorry, we just changed internet providers and it seems to be worse than the other. I missed part of the question. I've been breaking in and out.
Yeah, so we're focusing on the energy industry topic right now, and potentially ANSEP related programming, and the work that you guys are doing is broader than just the energy topic. But wondering, as we look at some of the gaps related to a trained workforce to do energy related jobs, what kind of updates or news or what is happening on the ANSEP front that we should consider as we're thinking about solutions for things like power plant operations, renewable energy opportunities or operators. Those are some of the things here that are listed as potential opportunities, including weatherization and other things that are immediate needs. So just kind of trying to get a good sense of partners that have joined us, what solutions are happening.
Yeah, I think, we deal with energy more on a broader level,
Mm-hmm.
trying to encompass as many students interested in the field. And this also goes with the previous conversation about aviation. What we're doing is trying to prep students, both at the middle school level and the high school level to be academically prepared in whatever, career field they decide to pursue after high school. And when I say academically prepared, I mean, they're ready to jump in right into any kind of training, whether it's at the college level or vocational level, on the power plant side.
Thanks, Audrey. So I'll put the question to the group again. Folks that either have an additional solution that you would add to this energy sector, or progress that you've made or that you know of that's addressing some of the solutions that are already outlined here. So I think we're doing both things, kind of checking on our progress towards potentially implementing these solutions, but also any other solutions that have not been identified. Bill, can you hear me okay?
If I can find my unmute button, yes, I can hear you.
Okay. This is maybe kind of your universe. Anything that you would add here?
I see, under solutions, one of the things is encouraging communities and community leadership to understand that there is, a real need for continuing education for plant operators, whether they've been an operator for 6 months or 6 years. I think there's a lot that can be learned, and we do help communities send plant operators to the Avtech facility, but we also have traveling techs that go out specifically just for training operators on the equipment that they use every day. So if there is an ability to bring training for operators specifically around energy in the community setting, I think we all heard in the plenary session, the eye-opening experience for students as they graduate and get exposed to things outside their community. It kind of broadens their horizons, but there still is, a reluctance or a difficulty to spend 6 weeks in sewer. Excuse me. Either when you have home responsibilities or job responsibilities in your own community, and just being away from home is difficult. So if there's an ability to bring training to the communities in addition to the foundational stuff that's going on in Avtech, it could be of a benefit.
Thanks, Bill. I think I saw that Natalie, you're online. If you can hear me, I wonder if you had anything that you would like to contribute that you guys are working on. And I know this is certainly an intersection with the actual energy breakout that we're going to have later, but anything that you would add here kind of under the education workforce development umbrella? Oh, it looks like Natalie jumped off. Okay. Anyone that has not had a chance to weigh in on this topic in terms of either the solutions that you see presented here, additions, or updates to what that was identified in December?
I just have a question about the internships and apprenticeships. So it says school-based. Is there a reason it's just school-based, or because we are a program sponsor for internships, but these are employer-based, apprenticeships, employer-based apprenticeships. Is that something that I guess I don't remember this specific solution, but I'm just curious to why it's just school-based and not employer-based opportunities, or is this also including employer-based opportunities?
I think this is potentially including that, Fanny, and this was maybe where there was an opportunity or a gap. So this was an addition. But we should clarify that and have that clear here in the solutions.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead, Andrea.
Good morning, everybody. So sorry to be tardy. We participated in the Great Alaska Shakeout, and so I apologize. You know, TKC, the Kuskokwim Corporation, is fairly new to the CEDS process. So thank you so much for the opportunity. One of the things that we have been really looking hard at is how can we build on the successes, like the gentleman before, I believe Bill was talking about how people, especially in rural communities, tend to be more successful when the trainings are brought to them. We've been doing that for the last 4 or 5 years and been a very project specific target of, okay, this community is going to get a airport project. So we're working with the company that received that award and making sure that our local workforce is ready for whatever jobs they may have available. So now we're taking it one step further. I said we were building on successes. We right now are in the process of developing a regional training and economic development center in Antioch to bring this to our region, because we know even though the Ute Training Center in Bethel is a phenomenal facility, it's hard to ask somebody from our region to be that far away from home. And so part of this vision for this building that we are working on creating is to have a place where we can bring in partners. So whether that be Ute, whether that be NIT, whether that be some arm of AvTech into our region, provide these trainings and have it be a one-stop shopping place for our region. Whereas we're looking at micro-credentialing. So, you know, there's one guy in the village and he's the guy that you want to work on your four-wheeler, but he doesn't have that piece of paper. How do we build on his skills, get him that piece of paper and help him be successful in whatever he wants to do in life? And so we are working on the development of that project right now. I actually this morning was talking to a couple of funders, and so it is very much on the agenda for our region to bring this, because as we talk about the opportunities, whether that be Donlin, whether that be timber development, whether that be filling some of these gaps that we know that we have, we want to provide this through the training center in our region. And then also, not only for new jobs, but like that is identified here, for those jobs that already exist in the region, power plant operators, heavy equipment operators, welders, all of those things we want under this one roof. So I know in the past, the CEDS seems to be focused on where the population is in the region, and that's on the lower part of the river in the Bethel area. And we're taking, I guess, the great foundation of the CEDS and bringing some of those opportunities into our region as well, mindful that big project developments could be on the horizon in our region, and we want our sub-region to be prepared for that.
Great. Thanks, Andrea. Well, that's super exciting news. And I really appreciate your point about the focus of the CEDS, and it's not the annual update that folks have at their fingertips most recently, but it's in the more robust 5-year document where there is a sub-regional breakdown of priorities and even just challenges. So I think though, really to continue to think about that, because the region is so big, you know, how do we bring the thing to folks where they're at? And I think that's been a recurring theme. And certainly we heard Jaden tell his story this morning about how like coming back home and doing a reset was really critical to his success and his ability to go back, you know, and finish his degree and do the work he's doing now at UAF. Okay, great discussion. So I was going to continue down this list here. So we've certainly talked about energy at a broader level, and then heard from Andrea and actually Audrey and Fanny, all three, about just the general kind of both development of a center and specific programs that hit broader topics. I did, since I think I saw that Rania is on, and I just wanted to really recognize that Ykhc is a critical partner. And Rania, you can see probably on your screen that currently we have sort of a blank slate here related to healthcare. And I just wanted to bring that up to the group. I know we could come back to energy too, folks, if we need to, but a topic that we did not really tackle full on in our December work session for education workforce development was healthcare, and to get a better idea of gaps and solutions there. And Rania, I'm not sure if you can hear me okay, and would like to share some feedback on what should we have in the CEDS and really prioritize. I know part of your team, and including Deanna, we're going to join us for the facilities kind of infrastructure discussion, but it's also, I think, tied to the workforce development. So thanks for joining us, Rania.
Yeah, thank you. It's great to be here. I'm sorry that I was a little bit late. And I wanted to just quickly thank Nikolai for sharing what he did on the chat as far as what KC offers. In terms of gaps that we might have, there are areas that continue to be a focus and priority for healthcare, I think, across the state. We know that we've historically worked on what we might be able to offer locally, including, CNA programs, because we continue to have a high need for CNAs or certified nursing assistants. Nursing is definitely a huge gap that we have, and that right now is across the country. Over the last year, we've seen a huge need for more nurses across the country, and we definitely have that shortage here. One of the biggest priorities, though, that Ykhc focuses on is our lack of health aides across the service area that we have, and that's continuing to be more and more of a problem. And when we look at the shortage that we have in our health aide positions, it's not necessarily, in some cases it's due to lack of applicants, right? There's not people that necessarily want to go into that profession. But it's not always the case. One of the biggest challenges we're seeing right now is that health aide applicants are not able to pass the TABE test at an 8th grade level. So the test for adult basic education. And we've been partnering with ABCP and Ykhc to find out if there's some ways that we might be able to shorten that gap or try to figure out how we might be able to address some of those issues. But it continues to be an issue for us, and we're trying to be really creative about how we can support our applicants so that they can pass the TABE test, or we know that they can get the support that they need to pass the TABE test, which will help them to be successful in health aide training. And that's our biggest concern, is if they can't pass the TABE test at an 8th grade level, will they be successful in health aide training so that they can provide care to their patients when they're back out in the village.
Monica, this is my ignorance. You're using an acronym that I'm not familiar with, and I should be.
Right.
What is it again?
The test for adult basic education.
Okay.
We call it the TABE test, TABE.
Test for adult basic education.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. And so I feel like that's one of our biggest gaps, or one of the areas that we're seeing the biggest challenges in, and that we as a corporation are trying to work on addressing. And we definitely have a lot more that we can do. And we always appreciate the partners that have come and offer to assist us in the different ways that they can. And we're definitely open to ideas. I was looking through some of the other areas that we have gaps in terms of what we need in healthcare. And I mentioned CNAs and nursing, but we also have behavioral health aide positions that are open, and we're seeing more of those becoming open. So not just community health aides, but behavioral health aides as well is a need. We know mental health is becoming more and more, or coming out more and more in the spotlight as being a need for people. And so we're working to address that as well. Another area that we have a lot of turnover in, or that we see a lot of vacancies in, is our dental assistant positions. So I know that we have an Ykhc director that works closely with other partners in the community, but also with the state Ykhc agency. And, really those partnerships are so important to helping us to address the needs that we have in healthcare and how we can move forward. They're looking, we continue to work with other agencies to offer CNA training for people, and with the university for nursing locally, which has been really great. We've had a lot of people that have been able to participate in the nursing program and have become nurses at Ykhc, which has been really wonderful. So just in a nutshell, I don't want to take up too much time, but those are some of the things that I see, and I'd love to hear from others if they can think of anything else that they've noticed or seen over the years. Yeah, doctors for sure.
Doctors?
Doctors and dentists, doctors, PAs, nurse practitioners, and dentists are and mental health practitioners, our big vacancies that we have. Those are key vacancies that we look at regularly as well.
Doctors, dentists.
PAs and nurse practitioners, PAs and NPs.
Yep.
And
there's regular openings for these.
Yeah, and behavioral health clinicians.
I promise I'll fill in the acronyms later, but okay.
So we're on the topic of healthcare. The university just announced that I thought I'd just share with everybody that the university just announced that it's going to be expanding its Bachelor of Science in Nursing program. And so hopefully they can accept up to 40% more students. I know in the past, that's been a limitation where students are having to be on long wait lists to even get into the nursing program. So hopefully that will help.
Great. Okay, thanks so much, Rania. Appreciate those details, and anything else that you had on your list for other solutions that partners could help carry across the finish line towards meeting some of these gaps. And then wondering if anybody else would like to weigh in or has additional thoughts related to healthcare.
Hi, this is Jackie Garcia. Can everyone hear me?
Yeah, go for it, Jackie.
Yeah. Hi. So in related to healthcare, something that Ykhc can do is start apprenticeship programs, so they can take their own employees and move them up a career ladder in the form of an apprenticeship program. And so you don't have to train a lot of employees, but if you just start off with 1 or 2 or 3 and then move it up and see where the bugs are, remove them, and then continue on in that process, you probably will have a lot more employees, happy employees, because everyone would like a promotion. Everyone would like a higher wage. And when it comes to CNAs can move into LPNs, can move into RNs. And so can your health aides and your behavioral health aides. There's huge structure right there that can accommodate a lot of training if the employer is willing to provide it. In the same thing with the dental assistants. The dental assistants can eventually move up and become DHATs, which I know in the dental program, there's several levels when it comes to careers in the dental sector. So all these things can happen, but it's just that the employer needs, employers need to have the initiative in this whole workforce development program that we are talking about right now. We barely have any employers involved. We have to get the employers involved. This is the only way that we can move forward. We can talk about training all day, but if we don't have employers involved, well then, that's the end. That's the end. The end part of it all. Whether it's aviation, whether it's healthcare, whether it's power, electricians, plumbers, anything, you still have to have an employer involved in this whole process. And I know Fanny brought it up earlier when she said about why we constantly talk about the students and apprenticeships, basically, and don't we have apprenticeships amongst adults? Yes, we do. And And we are constantly, I mean, I think this whole thing needs to be divided up as to what trainings we can give kids from 5th grade up to high school. And then after high school, you know, the workforce development for adults. So let's move on to those ones, you know, those kids that could not go to college, and now let's go tap into the vocational side of it and move in that direction as to, okay,
Thanks,
what are
Jackie.
the positions?
Thanks, Jackie. And I think that was the focus that we've redirected. And Ronnie is actually an employer from Ykhc, so it's great to have her perspective on healthcare. And we definitely did the switch of gears to go adult focus in the plan. Yeah, go for it, Andrea.
Thanks. I just want to talk a little bit about our efforts to work with Ykhc. Thank you, Rania, and your team for working with those in our region. One of the things that we have really identified in our region as a huge hurdle is this lack of health aides. And I think we're all dealing with it, but in some of our upriver communities, they don't have health aides at all. There's nobody stationed there. There's nobody interested in the community in doing that. So what we're doing, and we've worked with Ykhc to do, is giving very basic training, meeting people where they're at rather than where we wish they would be. And meeting people where they're at is bringing basic first aid training in a partnership with Ykhc to anybody in the community that wants it, and bringing that training to them. And then through that process, we're hoping to identify people that may want to take it to the next level. Like, hey, this is really kind of cool. And then we can work with them on the TABE test training. And we are working with AVCP, TKC is working with AVCP to do GED. It's the practice testing, and then it's the tutoring. We're partnered with the school district on that. So we really want to take them in kind of a more unofficial way, because we find that when people start to, when you talk about apprenticeships, you talk about college courses, people can get scared by the terms a little bit. But when you talk about first aid training, and then you talk about like, hey, we can help tutor you on these things. And again, bringing things to, I'm not saying down a level, but just something that's accessible to them. We're finding that, we're hoping that we can build on that. We've been hitting roadblocks with COVID, as everybody is, but that's kind of the vision, that we have the first aid training. So at the very least, people in our region, if something were to happen, we have people ready there to respond, and then taking individuals from that group to the next level of, hey, let's work on this TABE testing, to the ultimate level of let's get these homegrown health aides, let's get them, if they're really into it, into that certified nursing program, and nurturing them along the way, but definitely nurturing the adult to be successful in their communities. And the other part of it too is, of course, support for our existing health aides that are there. And with everybody short-staffed, it doesn't matter what industry you're in, I feel like you're being overworked right now. And so that's a discussion that we've been very happy to see Ykhc open to having with us in our communities, is how can we support them, whether that's, you know, better temporary living conditions for a floating health aide. If they have a safe and secure place that they can stay, they're more willing to come to our region for an extended period of time and provide relief to the other health aides. So it's all part of this discussion. And what I think we found, especially in our region, is nobody has one answer, but it's going to take this teamwork, and it's going to take this matrix of people all willing to do small bits and pieces that feed into the bigger picture.
Thanks, Andrea. Yeah, and I just added. Yeah, go for it.
I just wanted to add a couple of things for healthcare. So we are working with Naomi at AHEC at Ykhc to potentially come up with a TABE intensive, where it's a week long. We fly in students that want to become health aides, and work with them face to face for a week on bringing up their TABE scores. And this is something we've done with GED, but because of COVID, it's been really hard to get that back up and running. And I also wanted to add, apprenticeships is also another there are healthcare apprenticeships. Currently, the only apprenticeships we have are in construction, but you can definitely expand, but we would need partners, in this case, YK, to kind of hope to be the employer for an apprenticeship. But that's something I think is doable, would definitely be doable here. It might be challenging just because I know that, you need to have some with turnover and with, I don't know what the challenges could be for healthcare, but I know there will be some. And there was one more thing.
Mhm.
Oh, the other thing lost. I lost it. It might come back, but I just wanted to add those two things.
Thanks, Fanny. So yeah, and I just see there's a couple of notes in the chat too from folks about there are existing apprenticeships. So there's this potential opportunity here, and maybe that's what we need to articulate too, is like the marketing and the recruitment for those apprenticeships. And at some point, maybe it is expanding those, but I saw that that note from Jackie and from your comment, Fanny.
Yeah, and I think building off of what we do have, because we do have career ladders and apprenticeships that we do offer at Ykhc. And I know Naomi that Fanny was talking about a few minutes ago, she has, and we have been with the state AHEC program, been offering some apprenticeships and working with them on the AHEC Scholars program as well. And then working with LKSD, that's another partner that I failed to mention earlier. We are working with LKSD to look at healthcare careers for high school students. And when they're in for some of I can't remember all of the names of the programs that they have. I can keep thinking of ANSEP, but I know that they have other programs similar to ANSEP where they bring students in for potential career opportunities and provide opportunities for them to take classes that would support that. And then they also, several years ago, I think it was like 3 or 4 years ago, we had started having an internship type program where we had students that were coming in for those programs actually shadowing in the hospital for different careers. So that was really good. So we do have some of those, and I think we could definitely continue to build on those. And like you mentioned, the marketing and recruitment for existing apprenticeships that are already there.
Yeah.
I remember the third thing, man. My last thing was the dental, sorry, this is Fanny again. The dental assisting, so I'm working with Naomi to hopefully bring a dental assisting training program here to Bethel. That would be a condensed version of what I believe UAA is offering. I think their program's a year long, so we're trying to get something that would be like no more than 6 weeks. So it might not be a full, like the full program that UAA is offering.
Yeah.
But we want to have something that people can in some basic level training, like whatever. I mean, we're going to be working with the dentists too at YK. Like what level would you want people at? And trying to find, hopefully we can get something that's not more than 6 weeks long to get students in and out. So that's something that we're working on with YK right now.
Awesome. Okay, well, I really appreciate everyone doing a little bit of a deeper dive with healthcare, which was a topic that we didn't unpack when we got together in December. So with everybody's permission, and Yvonne, thanks for the prompt. We are an hour into our time, and we've definitely have articulated from previous discussions what was happening related to aviation, had some updates, energy. We've fleshed out some additional thoughts, and thanks everybody for your contributions on healthcare. The other areas that we had talked about last time, and it would be great to get some additional input on resource development kinds of questions. But before we do that, I wanted to bring up, we have a couple of folks that joined us that I think would have interest and may be able to contribute some thoughts on the planning category. A topic, it certainly overlaps with everything that we're talking about with the CEDS and then everything that's happening in the region related to either environmental planning, hazard mitigation planning, climate change or adaptation planning. There's long been a discussion about how to train a future workforce for really doing that type of planning activity, really a planning career or planning tasks or activities. So Freddie, are you there?
Hi, I'm here.
Hey, can I put you on the spot for a small moment to maybe highlight the work that you were doing with Melinda Chase on the adaptation planning piece? I think that's that is progress made towards where there may be gaps for planners or folks that are doing data collection or research or analysis, the work that you were doing with Melinda related to adaptation planning in the Ykhc.
Sure. Our coworker Heather Stewart and myself recently completed a project with Melinda Chase at the UAF Climate Adaptation Science Center and APIA or in New Lucian Chain about making a roadmap or pathway of sorts for helping young students or young professionals, from high school on up to become more involved in climate adaptation, community planning, climate science, and just help, and with the end goal of having a strong and local workforce for community adaptation planning in our villages. There's perhaps the strongest value would be having local and traditional knowledge of the village and the area, and having a deeper understanding of what these villages and communities need to address climate change.
Thanks, Freddie. And the reason I thought that would be helpful to bring up here is there's really a lot of overlap with some of the other topics. And there's definitely overlap, for example, in what our keynote speakers were talking about this morning in terms of the ANSEP and STEM related and science and energy and science and certainly data collection and research and analysis that's happening for those young people that are going through more formal programming and training. But I believe, Freddie, if I understood correctly, kind of the focus there was also to do kind of the inventory of existing programming and how you might braid some of those pieces together and use some of the best practices and integrate those opportunities to create that pathway that's because there's a lot there, but it could be confusing to a young person that's just getting engaged in this.
Yeah, so the project was more like a template that villages could take and adapt for their own specific purposes, and young professionals and young students, and just clearly describing how a village can tap into anywhere between 50 to 100 programs. There's an extensive program list, whether it's available through the state, UAF, nonprofits, so yeah, it was just creating a template to help villages connect with all these opportunities.
Thanks, Freddie.
Shelley, hi, this is Eric O'Brien.
Hey, Eric.
I wanted to make a comment about broadband and digital services. Is that can that fit in this discussion topic somewhere?
100%. Yeah. And I didn't skip over it on purpose. So happy to come back there. And especially if we're talking about education, workforce development related to that, that would be great.
Okay. Well, first, an announcement for awareness. The Treasury Department has opened up a capital projects fund that allows $167,000 to be available to tribes. We have some time. Everyone, the tribes from this region have some time. I think there is a June 2022 deadline, but on the one side, $167,000 is not enough money for many infrastructure projects. Now, that's a blanket statement. There's plenty of infrastructure projects that could be done, but they're largely going to be local infrastructure. You're not going to connect a couple of communities across distant tundra or so middle mile projects. But one of those available projects, eligible projects, is distance delivery. And I think this opens up a unique opportunity. The funds are available to every tribe. And on the one hand, many tribes are not very well connected. There is a lot of money coming for broadband. And so even if you're not connected today, that doesn't mean that the tribes won't have better connectivity in a couple of months or maybe even years. But I'm hopeful that the digital divide will be decreasing. And so with that in mind, if tribes could start thinking about how they would want to use their $167,000, and I would really encourage everyone to start thinking about this, even if you don't have a direct plan, because if that money is not used in Alaska, it'll be used somewhere else. So please do consider that. With that plug said, there's a lot of really interesting things happening in workforce development, working with an important regional group. I won't name them particularly, but an important regional group that everyone on this call knows, doing some stuff for workforce development using virtual reality to provide a richer learning environment. Now, virtual reality isn't appropriate for everything and everybody, but the thing that I want to point out there is, as communication becomes more prevalent and computer systems become more powerful, there's definitely opportunity for richer and new exciting means of training and educating people. So, it may be or maybe not virtual reality, but there are some interesting technologies. I do think that virtual reality will be important in the right place, especially if it can be combined with an augmented reality, which would do one-on-one synchronous training. So the employees or the teachers from the University of Alaska Anchorage or Fairbanks or AvTech in Seward can be in their locations far out of the villages and provide a rich learning experience in the villages. And of course, that'll really affect the cost of delivering those services and hopefully the reach of them. So nothing specific other than that Treasury program. Please do everybody consider that and consider opportunities for richer distance delivery services.
Thanks, Eric.
Thank you.
Okay, so we are partially down this table, but I especially wanted to take us to, and I'm happy to go to any specific sector that folks or industry that folks would like to focus on or share updates on. But one of those areas, I think we had kind of a general category down here. I just wanted to recognize that because our folks like from ANSEP and AvTech and Ykhc Job Center and others, we had talked more broadly about, too much emphasis on college and not enough on the vocational side of things. So this goes to, I think, Jackie's point and others earlier around like adults and even younger people with skill sets and training relevant to the jobs and the workforce needs that are out there versus a push down a college or a university path when maybe that's not of interest or maybe is not even necessary. So we definitely talked about that at the December work session. So I just wanted to highlight that again, because it's come up a couple of times in today's conversation. But I did want to come to this category of a resource development, since we have some other partners on that do represent the private sector and employers, and talk a little bit about resource development opportunities. So these were some of the gaps that we identified when we were together back in December that fall within the category of resource development. And when Andrea was sharing about the upcoming center that TKC is focused on, which is really super exciting. She mentioned, opportunities related to some, future training or job needs like mining or other resource or timber or other resource development. And so we did have an initial discussion about this. And so I almost feel like I could copy paste that kind of TK center down here as one of those things where there's a solution that's focused on providing and delivering training that's, in the region or in the sub-region and directly to communities. But I just also wanted to open it up and get other folks' input. And in resource development, you can see we also have things like land management as part of that category, or because we do have fish and wildlife listed here. So I was just curious if folks had in mind some of the solutions that we're working towards preparing for future resource development jobs like mining or like timber development, or even land management or fisheries, or any kind of resource development layered types of categories. So folks that have some solutions or updates that they would like to share with us here.
Hey, Shelley, this is Andrea.
Yeah.
I don't want to talk too much about all the things we're doing in our region, but when biomass harvesting, when I saw this on there, I do want to highlight one other thing that we're doing, and then I'll try to stay more quiet, is we received a Wood Innovations grant, and the goal of the grant is to come up with a new housing design in partnership with Co-Climate Housing Research and some of our tribes for the actual biomass for the wood. And so the vision is that we will come up with a new design of housing in our region that we can put up efficiently, effectively, using our local wood to do it. And so when we think about resource development, it's always part of this bigger picture. We're aiming to address housing, cost of living, energy. We had a comprehensive regional energy plan done for all of our communities individually, and then one for the entire region. And the goal was to start going after things that we can do immediately, and then what can we do as part of this bigger picture effort. So we're executing against that plan now. And every phase that we do, we are having workforce development and training be part of it. I have told my team we're not doing any projects in any of our communities unless there's a training component. And so the people that we hire to do weatherization will be training people on the job, again, towards those certifications. So when we talk about solutions, this is just one small solution that we found with one grant opportunity that we hope will go to address bigger issues in the region. If we can figure out a cost-effective way to use middle Kuskokwim timber to address the housing problem, we're going to work on our region first and then make it available to everybody. And working with Co-Climate Housing Research, not only will the design be available to everybody, but also we're going to be building these industries up. Right now, they're small scale. Napaimute has one. There are a couple of other smaller community sawmills, but we're looking at tying all of those together in a meaningful way, and then having a crew in each one of our communities ready to mobilize to build these things in an effective way. And so I think there are a lot of solutions like that happening within the private sector to address these really, really big ideas.
Mm-hmm. And it's starting, the idea is starting with like the kernel of the thing that's the most immediate need, in this case, housing. And there's lots there to scale that up that does include workforce development, but also maybe meets a broader housing need as you get further into the, yeah, and business development and a lot of different things wrapped up into that one.
Into the
focus.
one project award,
Okay.
exactly. And then we're also working with the Alaska Native Tribal Health Consortium. One of our communities is on the water project list, but of course there's much work that needs to be done on a per house basis in terms of weatherization and getting those homes ready for piped water. Exciting next steps, but we have to get over that hurdle of doing the weatherization, and in the process of that, training people to do the weatherization. So there will always be people capable in that community of meeting those needs. So it all kind of interests. I mean, it's interesting that we're having these conversations and they're like workforce development, but really it's so much bigger than that. It's everything.
Yeah. It is. Yeah. And I think that's what makes this particular topic. It can be like, how do you compartmentalize it? And that's what can make it a little bit of a challenge. But I think everybody's doing, I think, a great job given the breadth here. And I just wanted to really honor, thank you, Andrea, appreciate those comments. I wanted to honor, and Nikolai, did you want to take yourself off mute and weigh in? I really love your comments and we should talk about those in the chat.
Sorry, I had to step away. What was that?
I was kind of putting you on the spot because I saw your comments in the chat and just wanted you to share those and maybe talk about that a little bit more, about your thoughts there on those topics.
Yeah, on the human resources.
Yeah, you've got a couple of things listed there, and I wonder if they kind of start to fall under or related to planning. And the one thing that just came up in my mind, everybody, is the just kind of broader, but maybe related to this, Nikolai, is like tribal administration.
Yeah, and that's basically where I was going with those comments, was in training and human development, capability development in grant management, decolonization efforts, because not all of the Western models work in small communities, rural communities. So we want to work with our people as best as we could and build up capacity in our community so that not everyone is losing their talent to the larger communities like Bethel and Anchorage, et cetera. So it'd be great to see more of these efforts, and like with programs like Ykhc through Chalista Education, you know, I'd like to see them utilizing a lot more local resources like KUC and Ykhc Nalvat, because they do have dorm space, they do have classroom space, so that money could be spent here within the economic region that they're charged with supporting. Thanks.
Thank you, Nikolai.
Shelley, this is Yvonne.
Yeah, go for it, Yvonne.
While I really admire that this group is really focusing on creating training programs for all of the different career fields in, you know, aviation, tribal administration, healthcare, and everything, I wanted to emphasize that I think that it's very important to also touch base on educating our workforce in basic skills, including just soft skills. While you can get a technical education or a college degree, sometimes coming into a job, you find that you don't have the skills to lead a team, or you don't have the skills to communicate or take meeting minutes, or taking notes just in any general meeting with your group or your team. And I think that well, my challenge, as well as a lot of supervisors that I've worked with in the past, was hiring qualified individuals for jobs that didn't have just basic workplace skills and work ethics. And especially when you're hiring in rural Alaska, those are challenges that all employers face. And when I was the director of workforce development in ABCP, that was another barrier that we had to placing a lot of our members in positions so that they could maintain employment. Because though we'll find that they're qualified for some jobs, a lot of the times they won't be able to maintain employment just because they lack the basic skills to keep the job. And so I looked for vendors across Alaska who knew how to speak to rural Alaskans and deliver these basic soft skills courses, and I couldn't find them. And that's how AKRPD was born. We have 136 courses in soft skills, and we're working with major employers like Ykhc, where our courses are, qualified for continuing education credits. And we're working on getting all of our courses accredited so that we could be on the eligible training provider list with Alaska. And we speak the Yupik language, and we've worked in Bethel, we worked in Anchorage, we worked with Chilista and CVRF, the state of Alaska, and all of these different sectors. So we're able to communicate these soft skills to all of our participants, whether they're employed or whether they're unemployed and ready to enter the workforce, or whether they're high school students. So it's applicable to anyone that needs these soft skills. And I would really like to emphasize that our services are available because we're working with the Nome region, we're working with Tanana, we just completed 4 training days with ABCP, and there's a lot of high school programs that are interested in starting our basic soft skills so that they could enter internships or enter any entry-level positions in the workforce. We've just did a 6-week training with the Kinnick tribe in Kenai, and so while we focus on all of these career-specific, career-oriented occupational trainings, it's very important to equally emphasize the importance and the need for soft skills training. And that's all I wanted to say. And while all of these organizations are working towards training your participants or your employees or your tribal members or your shareholders, also think about including soft skills. And that's all I wanted to share. Thank you.
This is Meg Smith here with Donlin Gold, and I'm the HR manager. And I just wanted to echo what Yvonne said. We just recently completed our 3rd successful field season out at Donlin. And just from a perspective of working with all the shareholders with preparedness and workplace skills, what Yvonne mentioned is exactly spot on with just having the ability to navigate direct deposit and I-9 documents, and being away from home for 2 weeks at a time, and coming in for physical and a drug test, and just all of those workplace expectations. And I think that's really kind of the foundation of a kind of a needs assessment of what we envision to support training in the region for future employment for shareholders. And we've partnered with different secondary programs out in the region to really emphasize that. But the more you can do, I think all of us know how critical that is. And the hard skills can be learned on the job. I mean, we've seen that this field season with so many shareholders really learning after, their 3rd field season and getting promotions in different departments. It's really the soft skills. I think that just being prepared to actually walk through the door, first day, walk through the door, what do I need to actually go to work? And I think Yvonne's program is exactly what we feel like we need to do more of.
Thanks, Meg. No, thank you both, Yvonne and Meg, for those comments. And I think this comes up every time we have this conversation. So I'm maybe like documenting it, getting into our records in some more structured way, which is like expand the work that you're doing, Yvonne and others. And it sounds like that you guys are providing directly, Meg, at Donlin as, a private sector partner. You're investing in that and providing that kind of training, but expanding that, I think, across all categories, no matter what the field seems like I'm hearing that as a, potential priority. And if others have some other comments related to that you'd like to weigh in on, that would be really helpful to understand if there's others that share that perspective.
And Shelley, just one last thing that would,
Please.
with Yvonne's new program, AVCP has done an incredible job with their liaisons that they have in the villages. I'm not sure how many they still have, but our workforce that were even seeking employment, a lot of times they were their first point of contact to help them even with the initial paperwork of applying. And those positions are so critical out in the region to help folks in the villages, figure out how to apply for a job, and just being there to even interact with us. So COVID was challenging. I mean, I know a lot of times that they had to make appointments to go in to talk to a representative, but I just feel like the AVCP reps out in the region are such a critical bridge for us to help with employment in all the villages.
Thank you. Thanks, Meg. Go for it, Bessie.
Hi, Shelley. Thank you. I just wanted to make a comment. The lady just brought up, the services and programs that are offered region-wide. I just wanted to point out that I'm speaking from Mikoyak, and maybe I know Mikoyak is an outlier, and that's probably the issue here. But maybe, I don't know if there's something in the CEDS about equity in programs and services. That was my only comment. Thank you.
Okay. I'm putting that here in the notes, and how I think that's maybe the comment that you just shared, Bessie, really aligns with something that Andrea said earlier. And as we're thinking about implementation, whatever the strategy is, whether that's education, workforce development related, or we have a lot of other topics that are covered, that there's some criteria or guidance that really considers the equity question, and really how those resources and the benefit goes across the region and is not solely focused in one community or one sub-region. So really, I'm hearing that loud and clear from you both, and I'll articulate that in the notes here. Does it sound like a fair way to capture it, Bessie?
Yes, it makes sense to me. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Can I just expand on that real quick?
Please.
The equity thing. So when you talk about a region that is 56 villages large, there's no way, I hold nothing against the regional based organization. I mean, I do not envy you at all to have to provide, whether it be Ykhc or AVCP. We have a hard enough time providing stuff across 10 villages, and we know it's a luxury that we only have 10 villages that we have the privilege of working for. But we have found that we cannot wait for Bethel. And so much of what we're doing in our region is a direct response to, we have to do it for ourselves. Our people have to do it for ourselves. We've had multiple Middle Kuskokwim gatherings now where we're like, okay, well, let's make this happen because we cannot wait around. And so just the act of being able to participate in the CEDS, I'm here today, frankly, to share what we're doing so that we can take this document and go after our own funding, because I'm not relying on these regional organizations to do it for us. And I hate to be that blunt, but when I think about how I'm going to allocate my time, I'm like, okay, well, if we put some of our things in here that I can use to go after funding, and we get 1 grant or 2 grants or 3 grants to execute against, I mean, I think that's a success, and that's a reason for us to be here. In the past, we at TKC have not been involved because of the sheer fact that it doesn't touch in our region. because it's been Bethel centric. And I think over the last year or so, our thinking has definitely shifted to participate in order to help steer. Because if we're not involved in the conversation, how can we expect our point of view to be represented? And so, I appreciate these opportunities to share ideas, to have stuff put into a document, and know that we're going to take that and make it into something tangible in our region. And so I appreciate the process. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Andrea. Go ahead, Bessie.
Thank you, Shelley. Just a follow-up comment to Andrea's comments. I completely agree, and that I'm here for the same reason. Because I noticed that we can't wait for the hubs to help us. We're seriously, McCormick is an outlier. We're geographically separated, culturally. So I agree. I don't know if there's a spot in the CEDS where maybe that should be pointed out, that the villages need capacity and resources to be able to do their own grant research or applications, or to be able to contract out. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. No, that's awesome points. And I think, these need to be fleshed out, but the idea of growing future generations to, I think Nikolai's point and others, like growing future generations to do, tribal administration and planning that sets the stage for, and that is a workforce development question. So what skill sets are needed there? And back to Meg's point earlier about, well, some of that stuff is learned on the job. And I think that's true of a lot of tribal administrators that are in those positions and have taken on that responsibility. It's you can learn some of it on the job, but it is a fire hose of information that and responsibilities. So where are there opportunities and resources to collectively build that administrative or planning or kind of management expertise at a local level? So I've put something very broad related to that right now, but certainly if folks have more specific solutions, I know the Alaska Tribal Administrators Association has some opportunities for training. And certainly once you have that role as a tribal administrator or any other, tribal staff or otherwise, that there are training opportunities, but you're often, those are often provided to you after you've had to make many important decisions about the future of the tribe or community, in the case where there's maybe not a municipality too. So great discussion. And I just want to give an opportunity. I want to come back to Yvonne saying, hey, we should make sure that we're covering all the territory we were going to say we were going to today. And I think we've hit on kind of each of the key sectors where we're at with some of the, and I know there's others we haven't touched on, and we can certainly come back to those, but really also, since we have about 24 minutes or so left, I wanted to just kind of open the floor to others that have not had an opportunity to voice or share their thoughts related to a specific sector or solutions that you have not heard or seen that should be a part of the workforce development discussion. Yeah, go for it, Brenda.
Thank you, Shelley. One thing that we're working on here at Chalissa is helping increase the local teachers. And so we started the Associate Teacher Apprenticeship Program, and Jackie's been spearheading that. Thank you, Jackie. Right now we're working with Cuspec School District and Ykhc School District. So I think we have about maybe 10 apprentices that are participating. So they'd be receiving their 2-year degree under Penn Foster. And the nice thing about this program is they're not leaving their community. They are staying, they're working and learning in their community online.
That's awesome. And I'm thanks for the reminder, Brenda, and thanks for your comment earlier, Jackie, that I wanted to come back to, and I'm just plugging this in here. so that we actually have this in our notes related to, because we certainly hear a lot about the gap and the need for local generations and local teachers and educators. Thanks, Brenda. Did you have additional comment?
I don't. Feel free to speak up if you have anything, Jackie. Thanks.
Jackie, did you want to add anything to Brenda's comment?
Well, the whole reason as to why we started this, or I came up with the idea of grow your own teachers is because, of course, we work with CI that has all those cultural, cultural training. And so if you grow your own teachers, then there's a familiarity of the students being constantly familiar with their own teachers, and the teachers are in their community. And they know each other. So you don't have this rotating door of teachers just coming in and going out every 2 years. And that's I believe that that's pretty detrimental to the students, because they tend to like some of the teachers, and then the teachers leave, and then they have a new teacher to work with. And as kids, we were all kids at one time, and we always tend to give the new teachers a hard time. So so right now, what we started with is we started with all the teaching assistants who really want to do this associate teacher apprenticeship program, and then after the associate's degree, they can move on and online, and then also get their bachelor's degree in education. So we've tracked it in that manner between UPIT and Cusp School District, and thanks to those to the principals and the superintendents of those two school districts, we also got funding from the state of Alaska now to provide the education side of it all.
Thanks, Jackie.
You're
So
welcome.
appreciate that update as a part of the solution. That's exciting. Bessie, did you have another comment?
Nope, sorry, I think I forgot to lower my hand.
That's okay. I just wanted to make sure I wasn't missing anyone that wanted to weigh in.
Do you mind if I say one more thing that I
No,
just
go
wanted
for
to
it,
share?
Meg.
This
Yeah.
is just like I'll put my video on. This is
It looks, we can't hear you right now.
a sharing moment. And the sharing, hello.
Okay, and now I
Can you hear
can
me?
hear you, Meg, but you're frozen.
I'm so sorry. Can you hear me?
Yeah, now I can.
Okay, this is just a share, because it's such an incredible success story. And so we've had several Ykhc Alaska graduates from the region that are working at our project, and they've really turned into being the champions as far as the future workforce at Donlin, and just they stand out. I mean, they've really gotten an incredible jump start in their career pathway, in their education and their employment. And this winter, we've decided to try something a little bit more creative with some of those students who went through the Ykhc program, and then they graduated from ABTech. And now we've extended them a position this winter as a community liaison to work with the youth in the region. And so we have a student coming in from Pilot Station that's going to be coming in to meet with the students from the Lower Yukon School District, and also with Ykhc. And it's just, when you hear the story and his story from start to finish, and some of the hurdles and challenges he had along the way, I just think that those opportunities to work with others who may want that same example, if you will, of how they can navigate the difficult task of figuring out what they want to do when they graduate, and then how do they get there. And so it's just a sharing moment for me, because I've been working on that right now with a fine gentleman who graduated from ABTech in welding, and he has just turned out to be a stand-up, unbelievable, has so much potential in leadership. And it's just a proud moment. It's kind of like a proud mother moment. Because I first met him in seventh grade, and now he's working. This is his third field season working with Donlin.
Yeah. And so I really appreciate that, Meg. So it's inspiring and it's positive. And I think part of what we've been talking about today is doing more and expanding more and connecting more to private sector partners. So the programs are there in place. So it's getting our young people or adults to those programs. And then it's like the connection to the private sector partners to make sure that those are indeed like the kinds of skill sets and trained workforce that they're looking for. And I think that's what I hear you saying, Meg, is yes, that's all working out really. And you've got a great example and maybe more than one of how that's been successful.
And I think the youth in the region connect more with somebody like Nicholas, who is just, I mean, they can relate to everything about his journey and education and working. And he's humble. He's just a salt of the earth, bright shining star at our project. And we're so excited to continue to watch him grow, and even just offering him this community liaison through the winter while the camp is closed. I mean, he was so proud of that opportunity and to be able to talk to youth. And so I just wanted to share that because I just think it's incredible.
Thanks, Meg. Appreciate it. Bessie, is your hand up again? Just making sure.
Yes, it is. Thank you, Shelley.
Okay, go for it.
I wanted to just make a comment on the education portion, grow your own teachers. I'm not sure if it's already been tried before, but I know with LKSD, we have the teacher workforce is slim nationwide. We're at the point where we have to pull nationally. Now, to grow your own workforce, I don't know if it needs to be more hard hit, local, I don't know, conferences to spark that initial recruitment, or what, has there been any activities like that?
Do we have any school district folks on? Other school district folks? That could maybe talk to the really how the recruitment process happens.
Jackie, I'll hand this over to you because I know you've been working closely with the principals and superintendents.
Pardon me, could you repeat that again?
Yeah, so the question that Bessie raised was to reach, so it looks like the associate teacher apprenticeship program is an opportunity, but I think her question was more about to spark the interest of folks that are in the region. How does the recruitment process happen for the school districts to get those new teachers or start that training process? Or, how do you even just like get the spark going for a potential future teacher? How does that happen? And maybe that's too big of a question, Jackie, but just since you're doing this work really closely with school districts.
So it was the in the Cuspok School District, it was the curriculum director. Her name is Emily Vanderpool, and then in this UPIT, it was the superintendent there. His name is Lance, and he gathered them all together, spoke to them, asked them what their future plans are, if they're just planning on being teacher assistants or if they have any intention of going becoming teachers. And so one of the biggest hurdles there was that majority of these people said that they did not want to leave their village, that if the schooling came to them, that they would actually participate. And so then that's what we created. So we created an online schooling that comes to them. The online schooling also provides tutors. And with an apprenticeship, you have mentors. So you have teachers there that are mentors, and you can have several mentors and so these teachers can take over from another teacher and then mentor these students along. So that's how it all started. And so we had out of the Cuspok School District, we had 2 ladies interested, and they have now started. And what Emily is trying to do is trying to advertise it again so that we can have a couple other people start next year. But with that program, when I created it, I also created a school to apprenticeship aspect of it also, so that if we have high school students, when they're juniors, they can start this program, and so they can take the college classes, and it's a dual credit. So it's a credit towards their high school graduation and a credit towards college. So if they are really interested, by the time 2 years comes along, they would actually come out with an associate's degree in early childhood education.
Thanks, Jackie. That was an exciting and robust response. And then Kira, I was just looking at your comment. Do you want to share that verbally?
What?
So when I was in school, I think I was in junior high or something, and we had a couple people that had gone to KUC for teaching business, just a various plethora of degrees, and they all came back and they presented to junior high and some high school students, and maybe even fourth and fifth graders, just to kind of say, hey, what do you think is super cool? What is something that you want to do? And it kind of got their interests going. And within the next several years, when the people that they had presented to graduated, there was quite a bit of people that went to either KUC, UAF, UAA, or training programs in Bethel or in AvTech. So I think that's one way to really get the spark going, because it shows, hey, we were you. You can do it too. Because I know, because I'm originally from Kwigillingok, I know the fear of leaving. So having people to look up to kind of takes that fear away, and saying, oh yeah, they did it, I can do it. So I think that would be a really good thing to consider.
Thanks, Kira. Okay, friends, so we've got just a little over 10 minutes left, and I just wanted to come back to our overarching agenda, which did include this really robust discussion of what work has happened since we last connected, and then what are some other solutions and opportunities that are happening. I was going to take us down to some of what we had talked about back in December and August about indicators of success, and briefly touch on those before we wrap things up. But I see Fanny's got her hand up. Go for it, Fanny.
I just wanted to the education and growing your own teachers.
Yeah.
I've been starting conversations with ABCP about growing our own instructors for the trainings that we procure at Ykhc. If I'm correct, all of our instructors are from out of the region except for the aviation, the power plant, airframe power plant school. Everyone else comes from out of the region. And we have a lot of people, a lot of skilled people from within the region. We have the apprentices, our plumbing and electrical apprentices. During the onboarding process, I talked to them about potentially becoming an instructor in the future. So this one, I think, not just for teachers, but any training being provided in the region, if it's possible to have that done by people from within the region, I think would be beneficial to all of us here.
Awesome. Thanks, Fanny. Go for it, Yvonne.
Thank you. I think that's a really good idea, Fanny. My goal for AKRPD is also to hire trainers, and I actually have a train the trainer program. So I just wanted to throw that out there. But I noticed in the goal for today's agenda was, one of the action items from last year was to conduct quarterly meetings with this working group. I don't see anywhere in the notes that there was anyone who was to spearhead that besides you, Malvat. If nobody is willing to take on the leadership or the responsibility of conducting these quarterly meetings to keep up with the annual plan or the workforce development plan combined by all of these organizations and training institutes, putting this together and preparing it for the 5-year CEDS plan with this so that we could be prepared next year. I would like to spearhead, I'm offering and volunteering if I could spearhead this quarterly working group meeting just to get updates on where everybody is with their progress in these action plans.
That's amazing, Yvonne. Fanny, since you guys were listed here previously, I mean, maybe it's this partnership, but it certainly seems like these two pieces that really pull all of the work that we've been talking about together in a consolidated way, that it could be really useful maybe to share that responsibility at a minimum. Fanny, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I am not opposed to that idea. And I will admit, I have not been on top of this task. So yes, I'd be more than happy to pass the talk to Yvonne. I think she's more than capable of taking that on. And yeah, I have no problem with that whatsoever.
Okay.
Thank
I think that,
Yay!
That's a major accomplishment, because I think, so much of our conversation today is this opportunity to kind of put all the chips out on the table. And it is like, how do we focus the conversation? And if we talk about it, I mean, to Jackie's point earlier about like the kind of slicing it into pieces, and the piece that we've been focused on primarily is, and wanting to focus on, is this adults portion. So it seems like there's a real opportunity to do that, but at the same time, there is space for the conversation, as it's happened today, about what can happen in our elementary and our high schools or junior high schools to make those connections and do the sparks like you guys have been talking about. That's great. Thanks, Yvonne. I really appreciate that.
Yep. Thank you, Shelley. Talking about the quarterly meetings, will we be able to have access to all of the contact information for everybody that signed up for today's working group so that they could join our pre-scheduled quarterly meetings?
100%. Yeah. And we can give you all of this background material, because there has been a high level of engagement, and we've had some additional one-on-one conversations with folks on the CEDS committee too. So all of that could be really helpful background for you guys, but yes, absolutely. So we're down to the 5-minute mark, and I did want to just share that related to your stepping forward, I think, Yvonne, on the coordination piece. I know AVCP has been working hard to bring on a new economic development coordinator that helps to really oversee more broadly CEDS, the CEDS development and the coordination among all the partners. A real key piece to that is hiring and having folks on board that are focused on the data piece. So how do we measure where we're at and what progress we're making? If we're not really, so what's the data? Number one, what data do we need to or are already collecting? And then how do we check in and monitor that? And where do we want to be? So without taking us too far into the weeds, because I really want to respect your time, I would just invite folks to revisit these indicators that we talked about as indicators of success and positive change. And that could be a deeper dive conversation at one of the quarterly meetings, is about what information is collected, consistently that we know about. I showed some of those this morning in the plenary session, but what are some other indicators that are not, national data or otherwise, that would be very valuable to telling the story about success or challenges for education workforce development in the Ykhc region. So these were some initial ideas that were shared. This was actually back in August, and I think it's worth revisiting this and thinking about some things that might be outputs versus kind of really long-term outcomes related measurements of success. So that could be a future kind of task of the group that's coming together, along with those data folks that will ultimately be overseen by an economic development coordinator at AVCP. So with that, we've just got a few minutes left, and I'll take us off of shared screen, and we sure would love to see your faces if you're willing to show them to us right now, and any closing comments or questions that you folks have. That'd be great. Oh, here we come. There you guys are. Lovely humans. Yay. You do exist. That's okay. No worries. Some folks still don't have cameras and the challenges of technology.
Hi, Kathy.
Yeah, say hi to all your good friends. Any closing comments or questions that folks would like to share?
This is Audrey with Antioch.
Yeah, go for it, Audrey.
So one thing I'd like to share is I know we've talked about growing our own in different fields, be it energy, education, that sort of thing. I know there's a lot of people that provide funding to the students that are actually trying to go out and take on get some training and take on these roles in their communities. Just remembering to provide them some grace, because I remember when I was a student and leaving home and starting school, it was a big change, but not only that, the cost of going to school was so unimaginable. It was $10,000 a semester. And I remember thinking, how am I gonna pay for this? And I know some of your organizations provide scholarships, and that provides, support, but it's not the whole thing. And so just providing grace when students perhaps don't do so well their first time, and not holding that against them, giving them some time to adapt and learn and get into this new mindset of being a student learner. And yeah, so I just wanted to finish with that. I don't think that was really touched on during this session. So.
Thanks, Audrey. Anyone else a closing comment or question?
This is
Yeah,
Yvonne.
go for it, Bessie. I see Yvonne and Bessie both. Go ahead, Bessie.
All right, thank you, Shelley. I just wanted to say thank you for allowing me to be here and listen to everybody's ideas and contributions. And the lady that just made the comment about college, I really appreciate that, because I went to college for years and years, and it was hard, but it makes a good point. I'm currently working on a priority plan for Ykhc, and one of the ideas for local support is to try to do what we can to help transition high school students into college. So that's going to be a priority for Ykhc. Thank you.
Thanks, Bessie. Yvonne?
Thank you. I just wanted to say that workforce education and workforce development is music to my ears, and I live for it. I love it so much. I've been in this career field since I was in high school, and I just wanted to say thank you to everybody in this field that have contributed to the education and employment security for all of the people in the region. And it just really means a lot. And it's good to see faces and people contribute to the same mission. And so I just want to appreciate you all for that.
Thanks, Yvonne.
We appreciate you too, Yvonne. I'm proud of your new company. That's just so exciting that it's growing. So I'm very, very happy for you.
I first learned about it on the radio. I heard a story about you, which was like really awesome on my way to work one morning. Yeah, go for it, Kathy.
I just wanted to say one quick thing.
Yeah.
I just want to let everybody know that I have hired Colin Stewart, who was in the region. I am thrilled. He is working on our apprenticeship initiative at Avtech. We're expanding our opportunities for related technical instruction and our opportunities for IT apprenticeships and other non-traditional apprenticeships. And he's also working on short courses, and we call that we call Have Training Will Travel. So I'm thrilled to have him on staff at AvTech, and I just wanted to let you all know, because I know he's from your region and he did great things while he was there. So
Cool. Thanks, Kathy. Yeah, Colin did reach out, and I think he's going to show up and surface in at least one of these breakouts. So that's great. Anyone else? Any other closing comments? Okay, friends, it's lunchtime for some of us, maybe all of us. So we have a next set of sessions happening this afternoon, and I just wanted to highlight those quickly. So this afternoon, climate adaptation planning or focus, and then energy focus as well. And Joel Niemeyer from the region will be facilitating the climate adaptation working group. And we have Natalie Hansen, who will be facilitating the energy working group. So those start at 1:30 promptly. And otherwise, I just wanted to say a gigantic thank you again to Yvonne for volunteering and not knowing exactly what she was getting into. And that this topic, it's so complex and deep. And we did have 2 really robust, thick meetings in August and December of last year. So I think we were all kind of getting our feet back under us to be able to remember what we talked about then. So I just appreciate your flexibility, Yvonne, and your skill set and your talent, and super exciting conversation. So I've got the notes. Freddie was also taking copious notes. So anything else that you'd like to share with us related to education workforce development, don't hesitate. Otherwise, have a great lunch, and I hope you're able to join us for something this afternoon and tomorrow as well. Thank you, guys. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye, everyone.